All right, welcome back, everybody. We are back for another episode of Preacher's Corner. It's a rare thing. We had one yesterday. We have one today. These are the first two live episodes. So, yesterday was the trial version. Today, Tom, you are not the trial version.
Thank
So you're not the guinea pig. You're not the lab rat, but you. I hopefully you're not a rat. Nobody likes rats. But today I have an awesome guest, Tom. I love Tom. This is my guy. So before we dive in, thank you everybody for coming back for another episode. Um, we couldn't do this without you guys. And as everybody knows, we are here to motivate and inspire other people to make a change, not only in their lives, but the lives of others. So today I have, like I said, an awesome guest. Tom, introduce yourself and then just give a quick hi, and then we'll go into the rest of it.
Oh, yep. My name's Tom. Recovering crystal meth addict. Here to have a good time.
Awesome. So, uh, like I said, we like to open up because some of these shows get deep. Some of them get emotional. I don't foresee much emotion happening except laughter tonight.
Yeah.
Tom is very. You guys think I'm energetic? Just wait till you see Tom. Uh, so we like to have everybody get to know the guests. So real quick, let us know three interesting facts about yourself.
Oh, let's see. In high school, I was a member of a state championship winning football team. That was pretty exciting. Um, I'm an adoptive parent. I adopted two kids with an ex fiance of mine. Uh, and three children as well. I guess we'll just lump all the kids together. A baby making machine, apparently. But and then let's just go with a random fun. For some reason, my brain is telling me I need to tell you that I know how to juggle right now. Nothing fancy,
Interesting.
just three, just three. I can't do the four. You throw four in there, my brain just can't handle it. Three all day. I have a good time.
I'm just finding this out. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Well, it doesn't really come out much like in most environments. It's just not like all of a sudden there's three objects that are close to similar in size, and you just start tossing them around. Everyone's like,
I'd
"Oh my
be I'd
god!"
be finding the most random objects all the time, like in the grocery store. Like, hey, watch this.
Also, all of a sudden there's three smashed pineapples in aisle six, dude, and you're just looking like an a-hole. You know, it's just a good time.
Don't worry, I'll pay for those. Quick, run.
I will. I was gonna say I will not. I need to eat these if I'm gonna pay them.
Uh,
These aren't edible.
so, uh, awesome. Thank you. So, yeah, the reason why we have this, I tell everybody, like I started this. Uh, in recovery. You just said you're in recovery, and I think um, as I was coming into recovery, I noticed there wasn't many platforms where people were able to share their story and let people know what's going on. And I think there's that stigma on addicts in recovery that we're like no good. We are just big losers, things like that. And so I like I was like I want something where people can actually know like we're people with stories, and we've gone through hell, and we've come out the other side with some stories to tell that can, just like I say, for the mission of Preacher's Corner, to motivate and inspire other people to make a change not only in their lives but the lives of others. And so a lot of the lessons that we can learn that we've learned along our journey are able to help people, whether they're um, in currently in addiction, an active addiction, whether in recovery, or some people might be able to take something away and they haven't even gone through addiction. But I think all the stories we have to tell are able to help motivate and inspire other people. And so before we jump into your time in addiction, um, who was Tom prior to coming into addiction?
Oh God, dude. Prior to coming into addiction, my life was a little bit of a wild upbringing. I wouldn't have been able to exactly tell you who I was because it was a melting pot of just trying to be who thought others wanted me to be, right? Because all the way up until, I mean, I don't think I took time to try to figure out who I was until I was about 30 years old in rehab, trying to get this thing right. You know what I mean?
Facts.
I mean, this started out as I've had many opportunities to change myself, right? Like I went to many different schools, many different high schools, many different prisons. I was able to, you can always leave what you don't find appealing to other people and change it as you go. But once you like change so many things up and you're still just this emotionally distraught human being, like, where do we go from there? Like, I've tried everything to make you like me. How do I find out how to actually like me, you know?
Yeah. So growing up, what? Well, first, before we talk about that, how old were you when you first got into addiction?
Also, I started messing with substances when I was like 12. That was
Okay.
me finding my home, right? Like, but as a child, I grew up. Man, my first memories in the trailer park. You know what I mean? Like, you know, typical white trash. You know, Mama Love met my dad when they were working their way. My mom was working her way through community college. My dad was at his peak height of employment at KFC. They fell in love over some fried chicken and you know, made 3 babies back to back to back, got married, boom, got divorced just as fast, you know. So that
Finger
was
licking
that.
good.
so you know, you grow up in a split household then and you're jumping around back and forth. And my dad was always the wild man, you know. So drugs were always around there. My dad smoked pot forever, drank, and as we found out later in life, did meth too. You know what I mean? Nothing creates a better bond, right? Uh, sarcasm, by the way. There, don't do drugs with your children. So, but anyway,
That's the takeaway for today.
yeah, that's a big one. Don't take away if you don't take away anything else, just don't do that one. But Mama Love on that side, it was real clean cut. Nobody in the family ever did drugs or anything. Where there wasn't a person on my dad's side of the family that wasn't on drugs. So you're watching both worlds, you know, and you kind of enjoy being around one other world. Going up through elementary school, I didn't have many friends. Right, I stopped growing when I was 12. You know, so by the time I was in third grade, I was 5 foot, 160 pounds, and not like disheveled, sweaty. You know, how many people are over here like, oh, I just want to hang out with the slimy kid. You know what I mean? Not everybody, right? And you couple that with the horrible emotional problems and being my size, whereas I used to call them Tommy tantrums, right? Like, if I get mad enough, I'll shut down and I'll cry and I'll scream and I'll blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, I can understand why I wasn't the child people wanted to hang out with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I didn't really have many friends all the way up through elementary school and being unwanted at that time frame. Sixth grade, I got a chance to head back into public school. And that's when I first tried smoking pot for the first time, right? Like it happened within a week. I ran into my buddy who was about the same size. Turns out he was about the same size because he was a grade behind me, but supposed to be like 2 grades ahead of me. You know that. Yeah, so, yeah, that guy became my best friend quick. So he asked me if I ever smoked. I said no. He asked if I wanted to. I said hell yeah. I stole a pipe from my dad, and that was you know, it was you just remember the euphoric feeling. You know, just enjoying and feeling at one with somebody else too, and also feeling like somebody else enjoyed your presence too. You know what I mean? That whole thing there. But you know, dude, go ahead.
How much of your childhood, like just having the father who was in active addiction and having just that home life, how much of that do you think played into eventually, like when you were presented with that option to smoke, how much of that played into you saying yes?
Oh, well, of course, it's just what you see as normal, right? You know what I mean? We all imitate the lives we watch, and that looked cool to me. You know what I mean? So we imitate that. So I feel like it played definitely a relatively large role. I mean, all I had to do was be, if I wasn't able to get my hands on the pipe, it would have been a different experience, but we still would have been able to smoke. So but having that access did make it a lot easier. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like all of it plays a role. The nonchalantness with like how it is, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Whereas you come into other households and like, especially because I mean, it was illegal at the time. And I feel, oh my God, you know, it's like a terrible thing. Whereas, you know,
Yeah.
you got aunts, uncles, dad, everyone's just getting high over here, you know?
Now, how much? So, picking it up at such an early age, how did that affect just going through your adolescence? How did
Oh,
um, like how did just having to navigate with like because most kids at that age are like, oh, what am I going to watch on TV? What
yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons am I going to watch? No kid at, at like 13, 14, 15 is like, oh, let me go find some papers so I can roll this joint.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, in my little podunk town where I'm from, Odessa, Montour, uh, apparently there was enough of us because there was a lot of us hoodlums that ran around town with lack of supervision and call it what you will. I personally, just from my upbringing, I believe that supervision is the most important role in parenting. I think it's just giving them, you know, some guidelines, something to you can't just run around all willy nilly. And if I'm from a small podunk country town, and my group of friends ran about an 80% rate of becoming addicted. Not to just, I'm talking, some have died, most have been to prison. You know what I mean? Hardcore narcotics that we got addicted to. So I think that played probably the largest role in my adolescence, is being raised by a single mother who's trying to also have a dating life and trying to also raise 3 children with no real support from the other side. So we, at a young age, we were expected to be able to, you know, kind of take care of ourselves in a way. But as 3 siblings, we should have been able to be there for each other. Instead, it was like internal rifts and stuff like that. And I got arrested the first time at, I think, 13 years old, because I was out partying with the seniors and stuff. Me and my buddy snuck out of our house, and we had to get dropped off at the end of this long street on our walk back home. So we were walking back home, and the cop pulls up, and we were drunk, curfew violation, and underage drinking. I mean, that's the first time I ever got arrested at 13, and I probably should have known I was destined for a lot worse consequences, because me and my buddy were sitting there, and we were doing okay. But you know how some of those courthouses in small towns are like just random garages? You know, we had it in our head that we were going to like Judge Judy or something. We're going to a real courthouse. And here we are in this bus garage looking thing. And all of a sudden, 2 regular guys that you see in town are now in their police uniforms, and they're bringing this other guy in an orange jumpsuit shackled up. And it was comedic to us, right? We laughed. Whereas something that should have been like scaring us, because, you know, at the root of it, I should have been feeling like much more of a scumbag, because at 13, you don't get arrested. Right?
yeah.
Fun fact, my mom was going to be the one getting arrested.
Mm.
Right? So they brought her in, and obviously they got rid of that because my mom's never done anything. She's the sweetest woman. She's been the head of admissions at Schuyler Hospital forever. She was anyway, and she's just an awesome person. Luckily, they didn't give her any charges for not being able to watch her son, apparently. But that's a wild ride. My childhood wasn't really a childhood, you know what I mean? Like, as far as it's of my own doing. That's why I tell it with such like humor, because nobody wants to sit here and feel sorry for somebody who just made all these decisions for himself, right? Like, I recognize and I'm accountable for it, but there wasn't much support, but I wasn't much to support, you know what I mean? Like, my brain was enough to where I could skirt through school without trying super hard. And I was athletic, so I played sports, football, basketball, baseball. But whenever anyone would try to tell me something, you know, I would get big and kind of scary, you know what I mean? And not realizing now, but looking back, seems like it wasn't with intent, right? To either at least get my way to the point of the conversation to stop, or so people did try for guidance, but either way, a big shift happened at 15, right? 15, I'm playing my second year of varsity football. We usually smoke weed before school, right, every day. So my buddy gets there, and we don't have any weed. So he comes up with the idea that we're gonna go get drunk. So we walk up to his dad's house. 15 years old. It's freaking 8 in the morning, dude. What are we even doing? We get really, really drunk. There's nothing to do in my town. All we have is we're at my house, and we walk down to the Dandy. That is literally all there is. There's 2 streets, and one ends with a Dandy. So we head down to the Dandy, and we get stopped by our superintendent, who tells us we have to go to the school. So we go to the school. We get pulled out of class. His mom requests that we have a police officer come and do a sobriety test. Right then, we knew it was over with for us. He took off we both took off into the woods. And then we get picked up like a mile and a half later by the sheriff. He wasn't in a regular cop car, so we didn't run from him. So then they bring us back to the school, and that's where all hell broke loose. I don't know. I still to this day I don't really understand it. Like, we were clearly inebriated. I don't know why they brought us back to the school where everyone was still at school. I don't know if it was to make an example or what, but whatever example was, they got it, and I'll never live this one down for the rest of my life. So my buddy, he was way more inebriated than I, and the cops started talking. I don't know. I guess his pants were like falling down, baggy. We were sagging at the time, So his pants were sagging, and the cops started talking about his pants or something. And I told him if he said it again, I was going to hit him. And it was, I guess, my 15-year-old brain, it must have been an idle threat. But then he said it again. And apparently, I was a man of my word at 15 when it only came to crime. Because I wasn't the man of my word about anything else. But at this point in time, I had to, I
stand on business.
I was sitting in the cop car. So I punched him, and then I kicked. And then, boy, all hell rained down on my head, bud. Like, I'm holding on to this thing. They tackled me through it.
Wow. At 15.
Yeah, I was huge. I'm the same size I am now. So, and also people, I don't know. I don't know how it is where most people are from, but where I'm from is you listen to the police. You know what I mean? They don't really deal with that much. You know what I mean? You just don't question the police. And I get it. Like, you definitely don't hit them. I definitely needed to be restrained there, but I think they need to take more into account when your hands are trapped underneath you, right? I think they need to be more understanding in that situation. Like, you don't need to mush my face into the pavement, dude.
Rightfully so.
I laugh at it now, but what resulted from that was I got expelled from school. So there went football. There went everything. It was my first experience in drug treatment. I went through the outpatient, which was the only thing we had it really is still the only thing we have in the area right there, Schuyler County. I went through outpatient treatment the first time, and I got through that, and I graduated outpatient. My counselor was so proud of me. Me and my same friend from before, we drive up in a car with no license plates on it to a head shop in Alpine. And I don't even lie about it. I got scared. So we're going up there. We're going to rob the store, smash in the window and take all the bongs, bowls.
And this is after graduating from outpatient.
Outpatient, hell yeah, dude. What other way do you celebrate? I don't know. I'm 16 now, probably. I think I'm 15 when it happened. But I turned 16 somewhere in the middle of this. But we took all that. Well, really, he did. But when you go with somebody, you get the same charge because it's just you were there and you didn't report it afterwards. You're right. But at the end of the day, like, that is what it is. So we get arrested for that. We both get was a possession of stolen property and some other stuff. We had to pay restitution on the heating bill, which was the worst part because it was the middle of winter and their alarm didn't go off for like 5 or 6 hours. So all their propane burned, and that was
Wow.
quite a bill. But yeah, so that happens, and I get put on probation for the first time. And then I'm in the middle, and then I'm in the middle of changing schools. So I mentioned how I got to change a lot of high schools, right?
Yeah.
So I go from Odessa. Now I head to Florida real quick because my grandpa was trying to save me. You know, I loved him to death. He tried to help me. You know, he brought me down there. I was playing football down there at a 6A school in Florida. That was cool as hell. But the whole time I'm not doing anything I'm supposed to. I'm not even doing anything like delinquently bad. I'm just not doing anything. You know what I mean? Like,
At this time, were you using?
oh yeah, I mean, I had finally came across some weed, but the weed in Florida wasn't great. But I also was I started to realize I can be a little bit of a scumbag on whatever substance because my grandma had a bunch of Valium in her thing that was like a year old or whatever, so she didn't eat. So I ate those like they were nothing. And I realized that like looking back, that's probably some of the first times where I should have known that I just was so uncomfortable with self, right? That I'm just ready to drink whatever substance. Like, well, why can't I just sit with me for a few minutes? You know what I mean? Yeah.
So at this point, you're living with your grandma and grandpa in Florida.
Oh yeah, that doesn't last long though. They have enough of my shit.
So
Go
before that point, when you're like from 16 like back, before you get arrested, before all that,
Of course.
as you said, it was your mom raising you, and you really didn't have a father in the home. And so I just had there's a group fatherhood connection that I do every Monday, and we talk a lot about fathers and things like that. And tonight we talked about fatherless homes, and so that stuck out to me. And so how do you think what do you think the impact was on just you and your addiction and that chunk of time, like pre going to outpatient? How do you think not having a father in the home really impacted your life?
It was no structure, nobody to really take. Not to take you down. You don't need to be taken down a peg, but I needed to know how to deal with my emotions, right?
Yeah.
Like I was never trying to scare people, but I scared people. I still struggle with my communication style. I actually have to be very conscious of how calm I speak and how I stay because I'm very on edge, very wired. But I wish I just, somebody to teach me the things that I needed to know how to be taught. I mean, don't get me wrong. He still taught me a lot of life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that got me into recovery was actually having to realize that he was a better dad than I was at that time, right? Like that was a real humbling experience because even though we can say like, because I'm a part-time parent right now too, and it's a tough pill to swallow that I'm that every other weekend, but I cherish every minute of it, right? With my boys. But my dad, I used to look at him like he wasn't a parent, right? Because I'm only there 2 days out of 14. He's not coming to he's not taking me to all my practices. He's not coming and doing all this stuff. He's not that, da, 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 da. But at some point I had to look at and see where he came from. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of how I landed on this thing where it's like, one of the biggest things you can do is just ask a father to be a better father than his father. Right. And I think that helps us bring through generational trauma and curses and stuff like that. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, my dad didn't know his father. My dad's dad was a one-night stand at the bar, so what is it? He stayed, you know what I mean? Like we knew where he was. He just life beat him down and he stayed down.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have.
So it's almost like how we, because I know just as being a dad myself, like we want our kids to do better than what we did.
Oh, of course.
And so like it's like yes, he may not have been like the ideal, but he worked off what he had, and he did better than what he had,
Yeah,
and was more than likely hoping that you would do better than he did, and then that goes to you, like hoping that yours do better than you do,
of
like,
course.
and then that just keeps going down the hill, going down the line. I love that. Um, what would you say? Because I hear you say like, oh, at 15 we were smoking weed. Like how easily accessible was getting like weed and alcohol? Because you said we just walked down to the store and we got
At the
drunk. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just once you get, it's not like people didn't know. People
yeah,
just didn't want to deal with it, right? And
yeah,
by the time the police get there, like we're already gone from the store now. You know what I mean? They can come bother us. We're gonna run. That's kind of wreck for us in a small town, But as far as that, but as far as that goes, how easily accessible it was. I mean, as soon as, like I said, my size kind of played into it. So, and especially at 14, getting moved up to the varsity football team. You know what I mean? So, you're
mm,
13, 14. You're hanging out with seniors. Um, there's not in a small town. There's literally nothing to do. And one thing I've learned: when there's nothing to do, the thing to do becomes drugs. You
absolutely,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, so it's just you have your same little group of 4 or 5 hoodlums. At least this was what normal to me. So as I'm talking about, I'm just talking about it like that's what, but you have like three or four of you are hoodlums running around, and we all are trying to get get a dub sack so we could disappear for a little bit, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And I don't know what problems in life were stressing us out so much at that time. Looking back at it, it's like, what were we escaping from?
Power Rangers, turn on.
Like, the only thing you're trying to escape from at that time is the emotion from puberty, but nothing gets you away from that, dude. Nothing. You gotta face that at
Thanks,
some point.
thanks. So you go from being expelled from school, and then you go into outpatient. You come out of outpatient, do what you do there, get sent to Florida,
Yeah, yeah. By the way,
take your grandma's.
that was a
What's
deal
that?
by the judge. I could either do 3 years misdemeanor probation, or I could pay the max fine and move to Florida. I forgot to do that part. So I went to Florida to try to get my life together. There's a lot of times where
Yeah,
people tried to save me. I can't say like
yeah,
I was not loved.
yeah.
But we had
So
so
while there, you take your grandma's values and
yeah,
everything. Uh,
values.
so
I even
so what's that?
I was just gonna say I remember it wasn't like I stole it for drugs, but I remember the new Madden was coming out, and instead of asking my grandpa for like 50 or 60 bucks, he had this giant coin thing with rolled up quarters. So I grabbed them and like stole the quarters to go buy Madden. Like that's fiend behavior. That's fiend behavior before you're a fiend. You know what I mean? I just want to play
Thanks,
Madden real bad. So
thanks. And
that's my
the crazy thing is, the game style hasn't changed since then.
no.
Uh,
It's still the same modes and everything, dude. Honestly, I could just pop that one in. I'll be good.
uh, so from that, like what led to um, really getting into, because you said you were on the football team
Mhm.
and involved in all that. What led to getting into like the harder drugs?
That's the trouble with my life. That doesn't come till later. I go to prison off of just smoking weed and drinking. You know what I mean?
So
So
what led to that?
that was just, to me, that was normal life, right? So it
Yeah,
was kind of series of sequence of events, right? Like when I got expelled from school, my cousin graduated from high school at the same time. So here I am now, expelled from school at 15, partying with my 18-year-old cousin, going to all the parties, drinking. Like I had just graduated high school. I'm not even done with my sophomore year yet, right? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm thinking it's normal to party every single day. To me, that's just what normal people do. That's a normal lifestyle. So I never really took time to think about it again until I was given time to sit down and think about it again.
yeah,
And that happened at 17. At 17, it's a scumbag move, but I got to share it's the raw, it's real. Some of us do scumbag shit, some of us don't, and I did.
Facts.
I had a really good friend of mine. Looking back, probably should have been my best friend, but I didn't really treat him as that, and was a shit friend to him. But I stayed at his house one night. It was New Year's Eve. His family loved me. I crashed there, and then they were gonna give me a ride home. I told them, "Don't worry about giving me a ride home," and I walked off down the street. I waited for them to pull out, and I went back to the house. And I stole his dad's 45 out of the gun cabinet. And then I sold it for like an ounce of weed and like $200. Gun was worth. The restitution on the thing was $950. But more than that, like, you know, it's friends that I'm sure you think about that shit and you never think about like what that does to somebody afterwards. Like, how do you trust another friend? How do you trust your kid having anyone over again after somebody goes and steals a pistol from you? Like that's got to be a horrible thing, making you feel unsafe in your home and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that was just shit. But they how they arrested me was a little humorous. When I sold the pistol, I looked down and there was also a porn DVD. So I took that, case and all, as a 17-year-old boy would, you know. So I took the porno.
That was the most valuable part of this skit.
Yeah. So the porno was in my top drawer. I used to throw parties at my house, but apparently one of my friends at the party found the porno, opened it, took the CD, and stuffed the porno down on the side of this box that was in my closet. So the investigators show up when the guy realized the gun was missing about a month and a half later, because people don't really check their gun safe every single day, you know, if they don't go into it. And the investigators came up to my house. They're searching through it, and I just remember them pulling it out. And saying, this must be a fairly popular one. And I said, it is pretty good. And it was, he said, well, it's the same one that was at the house that the gun was stolen from, and that I was arrested. Apparently that's not coincidental enough. But yeah. So that's the real
porn did you in.
Don't need to sugarcoat a story. I don't get me wrong, I deserve to be arrested, but the fact that I got arrested because of some porn is kind of humorous. So then I started. I spent a whole semester of my junior year in Schuyler County Jail, which is the smallest jail in the United States. I was up on a 3-man tier juvenile wing all by myself. Not one other teenager in the county got arrested that whole summer. Well, wait. I do. So
that makes it even more humorous.
Yeah, nobody else got arrested. So I'm sitting here, dude. You know you're bored and lonely when you're trying to talk to the guards. Just when they bring the trays around, you're like, how's this going? You know, you're putting on baseball games and shit, just hoping somebody sits for a second. You know, you're like, I can't act like I want to talk to you, but like, dude, let me say hi. You know, and it's at
least you didn't have to fight over the TV.
Yeah, no, well, you never do. It's just, I got lucky when I've been locked up. People are usually pretty cool when it comes to that stuff. But it is funny when you do get the temper tantrums over the remote, because you're like listening to it as a kid and you're like, is this what life is in the future? Is this what my life is going to be as some 40-year-old man is screaming at another man over the remote? And it's like, oh no, dude. And fast forward, dude, I wasn't far off. At 29, I was back in there listening to that shit again. But so as you go there, I got I go back to court. So I was in jail for 4 months, my whole summer vacation almost, and I go to jail, and I'll never forget it. My lawyer, I'm in my shackles, and my lawyer comes to me and he says, do you want to go home today? And I start doing jumping jacks in my shackles, you know what I mean? Like, And I was so excited that I swear to you, I couldn't remember the majority of anything that was said in court after that. right? Like I just sat in 4 months. Might as well have been solitary confinement with some TV. I was alone, and I'm going home. I still got a month left in summer, dude. I'm like, I get to rock out with my friends, dude. Da 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 da. Here we go. I don't listen to the court. I don't listen to the stipulations as they're reading them off or anything like that. I get home.
You're just thinking, let's go home.
Dude, I get home and I open them and I read it. And the stipulations of my probation, first, I've never had faith in myself completing anything. The only thing I had accomplished up until that point was I was on the state championship football team for Corning. But the only other real thing I accomplished was I graduated misdemeanor probation because my probation officer didn't want to be mean because I was already getting a felony, you know? So like, that's the only
So it's
thing
like by default.
That's the only thing I've technically been successful at up until this point. So I read those probation stipulations, and once I see all those, I just kind of crinkle them up, and I just Kobe to the trash can, and called the weed guy up, and I just said, well, hopefully I get to graduate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The foreshadowing, I do not.
Did leading up to that point and then getting out and seeing, because you said up to that point, you really, the only thing that you accomplished wasn't even an accomplishment because the guard was, they were just like, let's get this dude out of here. Like, so leading up to that point and then seeing the stipulations, like, did you almost feel like a sense of like, man, how am I to do this? I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. Like,
I wish I could say that my brain could process that far to even get to that point. But me, I was still the victim of circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Like me, after I found that out and I found out that my lawyer golfed with the DA. And I'm like, oh, so my lawyer's just friends with the DA that got me this shit deal.
That's a wrap right there.
They got me anyway. Right? So it was just, it wasn't a doing on self, right? Like this wasn't on me. This was on somebody else. It's like when I tell.
It was always someone else's problem.
Yeah, very much the first portion of my life is just, I used to call it just life of a habitual F up, right? I'm just gonna F up out of habit. It's not, I'm not trying to, but it's gonna happen, you know, and I just believe that it was always gonna happen too. And so they let me go through my senior year. And honestly, as weird as this is, my senior year was probably one of the best years of my life. Like it was weird. It was like the calm heading into the hurricane. Cause you know, I just started hanging out with like this group of girls it was like 6 girls that were all in like the top 10 in our class. And I'd hang out with them and they would party too, but they partied reasonably, right? They just did it on the weekends and and it kept me out of police contact and getting arrested and stuff like that. And I made it through my senior year. I would have graduated, but I failed gym class. That was the trouble with going to jail the year before, is they give you credit for everything. You get to do all your school subjects, but there's no one to let you do gym class. And I said, I play handball every day. Every day I play handball. Come on. That should give me at least a 75 for gym class. Some of these guys are really good. Right? But yeah, so they didn't, and they failed me in gym class. And what they did is they gave me gym class first period and last period. But the problem is I'm so sweaty and gross that by the time first period gym class ends, I'd have to get in the shower and I'd miss second period. So I just did damage control and just decided I'd stop going to gym class.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, that just.
So you were good at math, you're saying.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that went. But the end of my senior year was when stuff got real, right? The Judge Arkenzinger, I know a lot of people badmouth the person that sent them to prison, but I'm not that guy. He gave me so many chances. He gave me the felony probation, and it was all for smoking pot. You know what I mean? A lot of people say you can't be addicted to it or whatever, but if someone can, it was me, because I was over here. All I had to do was stop smoking pot and do the stipulations on my probation, and I'm over here heading to prison instead of it. So when those are the consequences, I guess it doesn't weigh out, doesn't track,
Yeah.
you know. So it didn't work out for me there. But so yeah, after my senior year, 19 years old, it was September, and it was time to go to big boy school, you know, or whatever you want to call it. If you're going to be a criminal, you got to sink or swim, I guess. But yeah, that's when and it's even humorous. I try not to have it be humorous, but it's how I cope with all my trauma, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not a very funny place. But
Yeah.
one of my goals in life is not to let anything take the smile from me. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
that became a hell of a challenge in there. But it just it gets wild. Like I remember. So the funny part is, with how small my county jail is, I was the only person on the bus ride up to Elmira, to the correctional facility. And when they pulled me out of the van, they didn't even open the big gate to the prison. They just opened up this little side door and walked me through. I'm like, oh my God, they don't even drive the van all the way in. So then they put me in this bullpen, and that's kind of like what happens, you know. It's fairly intense the first time it happens, but it's weird how quick people kind of adjust to the process. You know, when you come in and they shave you and strip you and toss you delouser, and then you know what I mean, and put you in this cage. And mind you, I'm from Watkins Glen, Odessa Montour area, Schuyler County, right? It's a bit of a culture shock, right? So here I am sitting in this pen by myself, you know, because that's how it's set up. It's kind of like livestock. Pen here, pen here, pen here, pen here. That holds about 20 inmates or so, maybe 25. I'm in there by myself because everyone's in with everyone they came with. About an hour into my stay, they like throw me into the pen with the just it's the first time I've been around that many black people in my life, and I'm meeting everyone, and I'm like, hey guys. I'll never forget. Dude looked up at me and said, man, shut the fuck up. I'm like, what? Happiest inmate I've ever seen. I said, all right, dude, fair enough, man, my bad. I was quiet after that. But, you know, then they go through, you get your DIN number, your ID, 09B2536. That was my number, meaning in 2009. I was B is the facility went to, which is Elmira, and I was the 2,536 inmate that came through Elmira that year. So that was a wild ride. I went through there. I went to shot camp. From shot camp, I got into a fight in the work site, in the workplace or whatever, because they have you out in camps, like building campsites and stuff like that, using you for the community, trying to like whatever military bearing and whoop you into shape and help you become a better member of this society. So we're building like the campsites, and so this thing had happened where my mom came up to visit me. I'm very much a mama's boy. A lot of the stuff I've had to work on is like emotional control when it comes to that type of stuff, because really it's never anybody else that makes me mad. It's the hurt I feel for what I put her through, right? Like the hell
Absolutely.
I put her through. Yeah. It's that coming out at you, right? When you made, if I used to call it them making themselves a target. Once again, eliminate all accountability from self. Like, you did this to you. You made me beat you up. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, so stupid. But there was so my mom, she had started dating this guy while I was inside, and she wanted me to meet him. And I didn't want to, but you know, she's driving 4 hours to come see me. She's obviously got to bring someone with her. So he came up, and I have a problem. I'm a smart ass dude, and I've gotten help. I've worked on some things. Still can't quite get rid of that part. But so the guy sits down across from me, and apparently he wasn't feeling well, and he had taken some cough medicine or something like that. And he wasn't feeling the greatest. But my mom gets up and goes to the vending machines to give me like a little chicken sandwich or something. And I said, so you try to sleep with my mom? And he said, what? I said, oh. So you already did. And he got up and he had to take a breather, but he never came back, and he fainted. I guess he fell out between the cough medicine and maybe a panic attack or something. I felt so bad, but like I got emotional. I hadn't seen her in like a month. You know what I mean? Like I got emotional and I started crying on my walk back, because there's a lot there, you know. the sleep deprivation, trying to get on that schedule, trying to get through a workout when you're not even regimented. Like, it messes with your brain quite a bit. Having to not, you get caught sleeping on your bunk. You have to go carry a rock around outside forever.
Wow.
It's like, Jesus, dude. Like, I'm not cut out for war. But anyway. But so that happens, and a sergeant chooses to address the whole mess hall and share that for my mom driving 4 hours with this guy, she sure didn't know a lot about him. And the tone in which he insinuated with in front of the whole mess hall was that she was like easy. You know what I mean? At least that's how I personally felt. And I got a little agitated at first, and we started going. But luckily, there was this is all specific targeted thing. I showed a weakness, and the guards targeted it, trying to get me to either work on it or fucking not. You know? It turns out I didn't. You know? But luckily, in our platoon, there was this big fat guy named Roberts. That was my guy, and they called him my mama. So he broke it up with some comedic timing, and it got it past that. But the next day in the work site, this other guy said some stuff about Mama Love, and I can't say I didn't have time to think because I'm in these giant size 13 rubber boots that go all the way up to your kneecaps. I had plenty of time to think. I just went and did it anyway. I run up this hill looking all types of stupid, grabbed the dude, didn't even beat him up. He didn't beat me up. We just stood there kind of, and we both got kicked out of shot camp for it. And then, so standing there, the dep of programs asked me how he knew about my mom and that stuff. And I'm like, well, the sergeant shared it with the whole compound, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so when that director of programs walked out, a smaller sergeant, this small little sergeant guy, he's probably like 5'7" or so. And I'm not height shaming. I'm just pointing out that luckily he wasn't bigger because it would have hurt a lot more. He had me stand at attention while he just like two-pieced me a few times.
Wow.
Right. And, you know, and then talk
about, you ratted out.
Mama's boy.
You ratted him out.
Yeah. Oh, Mama's boy, tears going. Oh, I want you to pop on me so I can pull his pin and we can all whoop your ass. It's like, goddamn, dude. All right. Wow. Well, thank you. And like, you have to take bad things and try to become like thankful for them in a way. Yeah. And sometimes you have to just narrow it down to like, well, that taught me I had more self-control than I ever thought I had because I've never looked at a consequence and had it stop me. But the threat of being whooped and getting time added onto your sentence, that stopped me. And I just, you know, I don't know. I have a face that authority doesn't like, dude. I don't know. And I laugh a lot, make jokes, and people don't like jokes in serious situations, and I have a problem. But so then, you know, so moving on, now stuff got real, right? Because I swear to God, it was like out of a freaking comic book, right? I'm in this van getting transported by the two COs over to from Mariah Shot Camp, which is a minimum security camp. There's no gates, there's no fences. It's just a camp, right? Because it's minimum security. Now they're driving me into this freaking Count Dracula castle. Freaking, they just cloud cover over the one spot. I swear to God, it looked like it was just out of a movie. And I had to Comstock. They called it the Comedy Shack, which I did, apparently was like supposed to be like prison humor. I'm not much funny. You know, the guard tells you that there's like, you know, it's weird when you're like coming in shot camp because it's all about military bearing. So my boots are like shiny and shit. You know, it's crazy in there when the COs are trying to scuff your boots up so you don't look a certain way, you know, and you don't get herbed. But luckily, since I was minimum security, I mean, I was only there for about 33 days. 30 of it I was on keep lock. And Mama Love, she came to visit me. This over the course of this story, this woman went and visited me in 7 different prisons, you know, multiple rehabs, just trying to hope that her son finally got it. And she is so thankful that I finally have figured it out and have this beautiful life. So here's so kids, remember, dude, if you set the bar really low, your parents will be proud of you no matter what you do. Yeah. You don't have to take it there.
No. So the 2 takeaways: don't do drugs with your parents, and set the bar really low.
Yeah, come on now. You know, I mean, like, the bar's pretty low when all you have to do is stop doing meth, and everyone's so proud of you, dude. It's you know? I got friends that got like master's degrees and doctors, dude. I get way more praise.
So going through, because it sounds like from that first time you got arrested at what? I think I
13.
wrote down like 13. Yeah, from the first time you got arrested up until this point, you've just been in and out of
Constantly,
whether
yeah.
it's yeah. So
Yeah.
did it like what? How did it impact your identity? Like, because you talked about early on that you really didn't have a sense of who you were and things like that growing up. So as you started getting older and started moving more into adulthood, how did constantly being in and out of these facilities start to shape like who you are? Because I look at that and I hear that and think like, man, that has to like almost when you get out put you at a disadvantage because you've been in for so long. You're like, well, this is my identity. I'm supposed to be in here.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
well, two things there. Like, you get the internal conflict because not all of us just become are this way, right?
yeah,
Like, I was an 8-year-old kid who used to get so embarrassed and so scared whenever I forgot my pencil that I would cry because I was so afraid to ask the teacher to borrow a pencil, right? Like,
mm,
that's and then so now you become this loud criminal. You can't deny it. Like, you're in jail. Like, everyone, you also have to look at how society looks at you. Like, you know what I mean, as well. And you have to acknowledge that piece, how people look at people in jail and when you're incarcerated. And I just ask people to kind of, so the second thing here is I just kind of ask people to look into like, what is like, I just described what happens to you when you go in. Now, every time you go to
yeah,
get a visit, it's for security purposes. I understand why it's in place. I'm just asking for people to be more understanding of what
absolutely,
it actually is and what you have to become adjusted to. You have to let another man look up your beehole, all your body part, insult you while they're doing it sometimes. You know what I mean? That's a little shameful a lot of times.
yeah,
Uh, so you have to do all that just to see a family member, right? So then you
yeah.
have to, it just, and then you have to watch all the other inmates and it's just, it, it changes you, right?
And
But then all of a sudden on your
what's crazy is because you said first time you got arrested it's 13. At 8, you're to the point of I'm crying when I forget a pencil because I don't want to ask the teacher. And so, like from 8 to 13, your development hasn't changed that much. And so here's people looking at you as this criminal, this hardened criminal because you've been in and out of facilities. When really you're still that 8-year-old kid because you haven't really changed since then.
Oh, bud, talk about you trying to finish my story for me. I have to go back there in a while. In a couple chapters, I got to go back and visit that 8-year-old, bud. But yeah, but it's true. That's kind of how it goes. Like, you know what I mean? We kind of mess our development up, right? Because I was, whether it's not really conscious at the time, right? At the time, it's just I want friends. I'm gonna do what it takes to make friends. I'm gonna try to be this over here, deal with this over here. Like, and then I kind of put family on the back burner too, which I still feel bad about that. But
Yeah,
as as we move forward, you know, it just that's where family really showed up, and I still didn't really put them. They were still not really in the forefront of my life,
yeah.
and that causes rifts later on that I never worked on. But the prison thing was it was a wild ride because I mean, like I said, I had a 1 to free, they call it. And they always like to joke because they used to call me. So in prison, I thought I was going to get a badass nickname, you know, because DMX was my favorite rapper, right? Like, I thought I was going to be him, you know. And instead, if you shave my face and my head, I just look like the little fat kid from King of the Hill. So they call me Bobby Hill. So I'm just, so I can't even get a tough guy nickname. You know what I mean? I'm just Bobby Hill.
Yo,
Right?
Bobby.
But I'm not, and you know, and it turns out I'm not good at prison. I learned because I went to, in that 25 and a half months, I went to way more prisons than you should have went to. Uh,
with the nickname Bobby.
yeah, I'm in Bear Hill, way up north, and I was there for about 13 months before I got dirty urine for, if you guys smoking pot again, yeah, that's the one. That I got dirty urine for that. So now it's even worse. I'm smoking ass, bud. You know what I mean? Because you know, if you're doing drugs in there, it came from somebody's butt, you know? So it's like, what are we even doing with our lives? I'm 20 years old at this time. Like, well,
So
what
they
life is
call
other people? What life is other people looking at
so
me?
so they call the ass grass.
But that's kind of what I was trying to say. Is like you watch all this happen. You see people get stabbed. You see people get cut. You have to let somebody look up your beehole before you go anywhere and do everything. Like, and then you just pop home one day and just supposed to be normal and better and rehabilitated. And I was like, I missed that class.
Yeah.
But so I was in Bear Hill for 13 months. I got the dirty urine. And at the time, I know they just put the act in place like 2 years ago, the HALT Act. But at the time, you were able to go to the SHU for pretty much anything for an extended period of time. Anything they deemed a Tier 3 ticket. Tier 2 ticket, you was up to 30 days in the box. Tier 3 ticket was to be continued.
So what constituted a Tier 3?
Drug use, gang-related material, depending on, like, if it's, like, my buddy was a tattoo artist. So that's a Tier 3 ticket too, like, especially if there's gang-related material that you're tattooing, which that just has to be in a sketchbook somewhere. Gang assault, regular fights, as long as it's inmate versus inmate, no big deal. The winner stays where he's at. The loser goes to the, it used to be the main. Now they've shut it down and gotten rid of half the prison, but it's like, so a fight would be like a Tier 2 ticket. So you would get like your first Tier 2 ticket. They give you a choice between commissary and packages or wrecking phones. I made the mistake of picking wrecking phones, and I stayed on loss for a minute because you're not in a cage in a medium. You're in a dorm, and wreck constitutes everything out of your cube. So if you're just out there watching people play cards, boom, there's another Tier 2 ticket out of place. Another Tier 2 ticket. Next thing you know, you're going to the box. But I got a dirty urine and 90 days in the SHU, 90 days recommended loss of good time.
Wow.
Not to mention, over the course of that stay there, I'd gotten assaulted 2 other times by officers. It's real weird. Most people make it through without ever having a problem. I still can't figure out what the hell I was doing wrong. But I assume that it had to have been me, right? But like, I got no tickets for those times. It's like, just hit me and we move on with our lives, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird environment. But so 90 days in the SHU, 90 days recommended loss of good time. So I go to the SHU and I meet my guy, Red Rum. I have never been, I'm not one to become speechless very often. But the guy's nickname's Murder Backwards. He was a big, I think he was, he was, he'll be mad at me if I get his nationalities wrong. I think he was half Dominican, half Puerto Rican. Red Rum, if you ever see this, dude, my bad if I'm wrong.
Don't come looking for him, please.
You're a good guy, man. But I guess when he was like 12, he had stabbed someone in the chest. It ended up killing him. So he did 12 years. Then he came home. Started selling dope, and then ended up, he was in the middle of another 12-year bid. So most of this guy's life is prison. But the first thing he says to me, now mind you, they group you by size, so he's a pretty big dude himself, right? Like, I'm a little taller, he's a little bigger. He says, "Oh, thank God I got you and not one of those other young hoodlums or whatever the hell." He used some different word language, but he said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to rape you." And I said,
thank you.
Like, yeah, what do you say to that? Like, I'd like to see you try, ain't gonna get me. I'm slippery. Like, what? I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do there. I just kind of was like, okay. Is this normal protocol? I've never been to the SHU before. Thank you for not doing that, dude. You're a good guy. But then I go to try to.
You give him a hug, like, I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, not hugging. I don't. If you need to tell yourself not to do something, I don't need to do something to make you say maybe I will. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird world in there, man. The things you see, it gets gross. But yeah, so now you're sharing this cell with this other guy. Toilet in there, shower in there. You have to like take your sheet and like plug it into there's like a little hole for headphones in the wall. And this is how you poop. You're making direct eye contact, but I guess if you can't see my shoulders down, it's okay.
Won't rape you.
Yeah. Thank God, dude. Appreciate you, brother. But yeah, so it's just, you spend 90 days in there and the 90 days lost a good time. So I go to Washington after the box. It takes a you don't feel right after that for a while, just because, like I said, I couldn't have any conversations with him. He had no life outside of prison. So I went to tell him a story about prom, about me going to prom with my
You
best
didn't know
friend
what the
Tito
heck
at the
prom
time.
was.
And he goes, I never got to go to prom. I said, well, I'm never talking to you again, Eeyore. Like, what is that? You know,
You
so
should have
trying to
started playing
communicate.
music and dance with them.
Oh my God, no, we just got on alternating sleep patterns, and how terrible it is for you to sleep 14 to 16 hours a day. I don't know. I'm sure there's science out there. I don't know. I'm assuming it's not worse than injecting crystal meth, but like it's probably up there, whatever it was. I'm hoping that somehow my oversleeping in the box got canceled out by my lack of sleeping on meth, and like somehow I'm just back to normal. But I highly doubt it.
It's all
So,
equaled out eventually.
yeah, just somehow. But now as we move forward from prison, like so I get out of prison and then I violate real quick. I end up back in prison, and my mom asked me to please just do Willard. Please. They offered me it, so I told her yes, I'll do it because it's closer to home. At the whole time I was in prison, the closest place she came to see me was 4.5 hours away. Right, like so the least I could do was at least try to stay home if I control it. But the problem with going to Willard is from the area I'm from, there's a lot of the guards, including my
So
high
you
school sweetheart.
knew a lot of the
Yeah,
people.
my high school sweetheart, her dad was a corrections officer there.
Oh,
Yeah, so he called her after the first day he saw me in there, and he said, I got dumbass in here. She didn't need a compass or anything to figure it out. She knows who dumbass is. It's me.
so is this back in New York or still in Florida?
This is New York. Oh yeah, no, I
Okay.
lasted in Florida about 4 months before they sent me back up here, put me on misdemeanor probation. So for my first real misdemeanor, I got the max fine, the max amount of probation. And I was like, you sons of guns.
They said get the hell out of our state.
No, they said we need to keep you on supervision, but like, you're reckless. So but moving forward, I get out of I get through Willard, and all of a sudden she gets a hold of me about a couple months after I get out, and we start talking. This isn't meant to make her look bad at this part, but she did have a husband at the time. Apparently wasn't a great guy. You got to be a pretty shit guy to like, I'm going to go be with this guy who just got out of prison, because she has her shit together, right? She had a home. She had a career. She still has. She still does. She's finished up her master's degree. She teaches up at, I can't remember what school right now, but she does great things. She had her stuff together. But for some reason, she wanted to rekindle something with me. She was a preschool teacher at the time. So we get back together, her and I, and that's kind of a theme over the next few years. It's like we have a 2.5-year shelf life, so we did that twice. But she was a preschool teacher, and mind you, when I got arrested, I went to prison. The best thing that ever happened to me was Judge Arch at the time. I have 5 children now and a beautiful wife. The best thing that ever happened to me is still to come. But at the time, Judge Arkenzinger, he let me keep my youthful offender status after I violated probation. So after it's all said and done, I'm still technically not a felon. So one day, my ex, she comes home and she says, one of my kids, the one with the most behavior issues, is he was taken away from his parents, and now he's going to be taken away from his grandparents. Can we house them? And at the time, I was like, "It's your house."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like but I just got out of prison. I know I had youthful offender status. I'm not quite sure how that works because these fingerprints got to go to the FBI, and they have to prove us being foster parents. Turns out they're cool with it. But if you were wondering, so next thing you know, I have a 4-year-old son and a 4-month-old son,
Wow.
Wesley J and Brady James. Just we a year. It was I'd say it was about 2 years removed from prison when we got those boys, maybe a year and a half.
How did
So
that? How did that? Um, Coming from all of what you came from, and suddenly having that become your new reality. Like how was that like transition? Because that sounds like it was a quick transition. Like so, how
it's
was it going from like this like I've been basically institutionalized, and now I'm a father.
the it was awesome at first, dude. So cool. Um, I remember all those first days, dude. It was great, but as in recovery we call it like a pink cloud. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whenever you had kids, and then you also had me making terrible decisions. Like I remember, um, I was working overnights at the 7-Eleven while I went to community college, and she was working as a teacher, and we're trying to. One day, I brought a stray home, not a cat, not a dog. My buddy John, who I just met that day. I let him stay in the basement. Like this is a real life story, and I'm looking, and I'm not even remembering it till right now. But I'm like, God bless her for dealing with that, right?
honey, look who I brought for dinner.
He's staying in the basement. But yeah.
Oh man,
That's the type of stuff I bring to the table. Horrible decision making, but
and
also
John.
it also taught me that like I seem to ignore what I have and focus on what I don't, right? Meaning
Mm,
like when it comes to like love, I put so much emphasis in the language or what I'm hearing
yeah,
that I don't put the emphasis to take the time and look around and see the actions that are being presented for me, right?
mm,
Like your words don't. I'm over here sounding like a child. Like your words aren't adding up to loving me,
yeah,
but at the end of the day, the actions did, right? Like, and it
yeah,
kind of helped. Realistically, all the pitfalls in that relationship are kind of what I built up myself with this as I'm trying to avoid ever falling into those again, right? Like
yeah.
taking the partner for granted and all that stuff like that. But so yeah, having the two kids was a major adjustment, and it wore on us. Um,
Were
After
you
about,
using at that time?
I was not using yet. I was still smoking, and her and I would have a couple of drinks every now and again, but it was relatively docile. But the things I was doing was like I had started trying to avoid her,
Yeah,
right, in life's responsibilities. Like I'm putting myself needing a break. Meantime, she hasn't had a break in like 6 months. You know what I mean? Like so,
yeah.
here I am prioritizing that. I got a different job at a kids home working with at-risk youth, and here I am using some paid time off and not telling her I took the day off just to go hang out with my buddy and play video games. Like what you have children, bud. What are you even doing? So, but that
So
was
you actually like in this time you were making really taking the steps to make a life.
yes, but I made the mistake of see that's where I got those weren't my steps,
Yeah,
but she had this unique ability to make it feel like I was doing it too.
mhm,
Oh boy, when she left, I was reminded I was doing nothing because that's
nice,
just kind of how it went. So as we fast
absolutely.
forward a little bit, we went through a quick little separation. That was hard coming back and having to ask my boys if I could be the dad again. That was a real hard moment. Whether it was the right way we handled it or not, I couldn't tell you. Probably not, but it's how it went, and it's just
Yeah,
that stuff's hard to talk about because it's not just me that's involved in that, right? Like it's kids, it's her, it's that. So but we got back together, and then we get pregnant with my T baby, Tegan, my youngest son, who my little Junebug kid looks just like me, acts just like me. He's really one of my biggest motivating factors. You know what I mean? Is as we talk about our fathers and one of the things that I just wish my dad had a redemption song, like a redemption story, like the ones you were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so if I can help my son with some of the answers to the test of the things that he's struggling with being high energy and high emotion and all those different things, I hope to be able to help him with those things. And there was a time where I couldn't, but my timeline gets a little jumbled now because the meth is about to start,
Yeah.
So I was probably 26 or so. The neighbor kid asked me if I had ever tried crystal meth. Mind you, this kid's like 18. I don't even think I have any business hanging out with him. I have kids, I have a family, I have a life to live. Like,
And you're still working with the at-risk youth.
Yeah, something like that. Either there or at UPS at this time. Those were the last two jobs I had over in that area. Like I said, I really did a number on my brain over the next 3 years. So I come into by happenstance there, and I was always taught as a kid, the polite thing to do is always drugs. So I don't know if there's anything I've ever said no to, which is probably a not cool. You know what I mean? It's not a flex. It's a problem. When people say, "Oh, I have trouble saying no," I do. I do, and now I don't. You know what I mean? So it was but when I did it at first, you know what I mean? I described like the first time I smoked bud is feeling kind of like at ease, at peace, relaxed, like at home a little bit.
Yeah.
This opposite, but still somehow the same, right? Somehow it still felt like home, but it was polar opposites. You know what I mean? It's straight razor blades to the brain, and for some reason I enjoyed that part, right? I'm not. When you talk about the use, like a lot of people, they always talk about the end game where it ended, right? And I don't. There's a reason I did the drugs, right? It's because I loved them. Yeah. I love them. I feel like it does a disservice to my family if I sit here and say I hated it the whole time and I didn't.
That's why we keep going back.
Life. I destroyed my life for a reason.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I always say that, like, I've heard people when people are like, "Oh, did you love it?" They're like, "No, I didn't love it." No, if you're willing to just like lose everything, if you're willing to tear apart your family, if you're willing to ignore your kids, if you're willing to do all this, yes, you love it. Like that's why I kept going back because I loved it.
My brain loves it, and it's when you actually educate yourself on some of it, all makes sense. You know what I mean? The dopamine being released, the endorphins being released, all the things that tell us that we want our favorite snack foods, our favorite this, the things that make us say we want sex because it feels good. Well, let drugs do it even more. You know what I mean? We have to combat that. We can't not acknowledge that elephant in the room that, yes, it does give you a synthetic high. It gives you a false feeling that seems real because you're feeling it in that moment. But nobody's meant to feel that way.
Absolutely.
It's synthetic. You have to. Yeah. So anyway, as I started that, like the first time I did it, I honestly felt like, as dumb as this sounds now out loud, is like, because I've had nothing but chaotic energy, right? This is what I have. I have this nonstop. It's just chaotic energy. It's everywhere. I got to try to harness it all day, every day. This is unmedicated, raw, real, blah, nonstop. My wife gets to deal with it all the time. But see, I just went blank completely there again. Where was I at? The raw, real, unmedicated ADHD.
Energy.
Oh yeah,
all the energy.
Energy. Well, the first time I did the meth, like it was like concentrated energy almost. Dude, I'm talking. It's gross to look back at it, but like I was being the dad that I dreamed of being. I'm happy as shit, dude. I'm pushing 2 kids in a stroller. I got my other one walking with me, playing my Pokemon Go. We're having a great time, and the whole time I'm on drugs.
And it reminds me of. So I like to tell people when I first used and I took the first hit of crack, the feeling the feeling that I got from it, like, because I've had like voices, not voices as in like crazy, but like voices like you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do this. And so I had all that. And the first time I smoked crack, like those voices went away, and it
Yeah.
was like peace. And so it's almost I hear almost along the same lines as like you had all this unharnessed energy, and you're gonna like it's just like I think of it like Cyclops. Like if you've ever watched X Men, and in Cyclops before he gets the thing, he like you think of when he was in school, and all of a sudden like this beam shoots out, and he has to keep his eyes closed and things like that. But then they give him the thing, and so now he has all this energy that's contained. He can shoot it where he wants. And so it almost seems like it was that, like you have all this like unharnessed energy, and then when you used it, it was like,
I mean, yeah. Well, it was clear I had ADHD from a young age, and they tried to
yeah,
medicate me, but at my size too, like in my diet, I don't know if it was my diet too. I I was pretty unhealthy, but like my blood pressure would go up too high on stimulants, so like they had to take me off of them, and then they tried the Strattera, and I got physically ill, like vomiting, and I've never been great with medications. Apparently, I needed narcotics, uh, but no, it's just. But that was to me, it's wild because rarely when you find a problem, you usually find the solution. But with addiction, the problem becomes the solution, and then you just stay in the problem. And that's what I
absolutely,
always tell my people that I work with. It's like if the if the problem's still the solution, you're never going to reach a resolution, right? Like
absolutely,
you have to eliminate that from being your solution to any problem. I always have to eliminate. I'm not going to tell myself, "Oh, I can." Like I always have to remind myself that yes, I could go take all my bad feelings and turn them into good feelings, but I love my bad feelings now. I love my good
absolutely.
feelings. I sit here in sadness sometimes and and I just go over days where it was worse and immediately I'm grateful for the things that I have right now. You know what I mean? That playing the tape all the way through is the biggest thing. You know, always playing out where it ends, and where it ends is in where I'm heading right now in my story. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
with so after about a so I just remember right after we had Tegan, it really took off, and it was a year later when she left me.
Mm.
She left me like a boss. She we were both in on it, selling the house and moving back towards the direction of home. But the day we were moving, apparently we both didn't get the same memo. But no, apparently I had, not apparently I did. I I was high on the meth, and she was working a second job as she was translating, helping teach Japanese or Chinese children English. Because if you have a degree, you can do that, and it works out and gives you extra cash in your pocket. But yeah, so I was waiting for her to finish with that, so I ran down to the bar because I needed to go to sleep. um, and I did a bunch of shots real quick, and I saw this girl that I had messed with when me and her had broken up for a little bit, and I started texting her, and
Mm.
I came home this day, and she said she wants to sleep with other women. I said, "What are you talking about? You want to sleep with other women?" And finally, I just blew up, and I said, "Yeah," and she took my boys. She gave me $100. Our bank accounts were closed and switched, and she got in the car. Oh, oh, there you are. And she got in the car, and she just pulled out. And this is where it probably should have ended. You know, I probably should have got my shit together. Uh, but I didn't chase her. I didn't try to stop her. I didn't try to get them back. I went inside, and I used the whole $100. I used the whole thing just to grab some ice.
Mm.
For the next day, I went to sleep on the couch. The next day, I got up, did all my ice, and I headed out. Um, and then heading through Ithaca because I'm coming from Groton, heading back home to be rescued by my mom again. I'm driving out of Ithaca, and my tire just explodes. You know, and I just sit there and I start laughing hysterically on the side of the road, just like a quick little breakdown. But right there, you know, you think back at several times where it should have been a turning point in your life a little bit, right? And it's like losing that should have at least made me say, "Oh my God!" And so you go to bed with a house, a family, and everything, and you wake up and you just have a car. Now the car's got 3 tires. You know what I mean? So it's just it was a wild thing, but was it enough? No, it wasn't enough. I still wasn't the problem. She was the problem. Somehow, she was the problem. It couldn't have been me. I did everything right. I tried my hardest. Didn't try at all. Didn't even try a little bit. Looking back at it, you know, and we move forward, right? But it was a tough time at that because, like I said, we've known each other our whole lives, right? If this woman can go and hate me, like, what is there worth loving about myself, right? You know what I mean? So that was a tough pill to swallow there. And then my new problem that arose was facing all these problems, but I kept the same solution, the meth. You know, if I just did more, I could go faster, I could get away, I could go and go and go. And over this course, I'm snorting, smoking, you know, just I'm a mess, you know, risking my life nonstop, staying up for weeks on end, and it's just to what gain? You know, I'm just trying to outrun all my problems. Now we're heading to family court, going through all that stuff. Before you know it, I have a judge telling me I only get 5-hour visitation. So and then, well, that was after. I got to backtrack a little bit because there's a significant reason for that, right? It's because I'm over here trying to do what in my mind was the responsible thing to do, right? I meant to do it at the responsible part, not the my mind part. It was my mind. But yeah, so I'm trying to do the responsible thing and not do drugs around my children, right? So if I'm getting them on Friday, I stop doing drugs on Thursday, right? The only problem is you can't really fall asleep Thursday night. And now Friday, you're an exhausted a-hole. And Saturday, the same way. And I ended up, I was never the disciplinarian. And I ended up spanking my son B. Diddle one day. And I never really shared the whole story because there's no reason to. You know, I mean, I spanked my son, but a lot of times an explanation is an excuse in the wrong ears, you know, depending on who listens to it.
Absolutely.
But I did. I picked my son up and I spanked him. I apologized to him sincerely right afterwards, but it left a bruise on him. In New York State, it's legal to spank your son or child, but it's not legal to leave a mark on them. So I got a level 2 founded thing, and that was in my recovery was probably one of the things that I look back on and most probably embarrassed out of everything that I ever went through. That's the one. But once again, that's on me. I did that, and that happened. So then we move forward from that, and you're going through the whole family court situation. There was, I think it was 60 days where I wasn't allowed to see him, and I got 3-hour visitation, and over the course, and then 5-hour, but that was after I got out of rehab. During this time, my life is just spiraling out of control.
Which I assume you're continuing to use even more now.
Oh yeah, I have to.
It goes back
I can't admit that I'm a deadbeat dad. I can't admit that I'm a shit right now. I can't admit that these are my actions. I can't admit that this is me doing this, right?
It goes back to what you said. Like the problem becomes the solution, and I tell people all the time, like a lot of people think that drugs are the problem. Like, no, drugs are the solution that we use for all these multiple problems. And the more problems that arise, the more we go to the solution because it starts taking so much from us that it's the only thing we have left.
Exactly. And that's my big. I've never met a drug that didn't do what the drug was supposed to do. If it didn't do what the drug's supposed to do, that was a bunk drug. That was not a real drug. But you know what I mean? We know what's coming with it. We just don't think it can happen to us. That pride. So now over the course of this, while I'm talking about what's happening with my kids, mind you, I'm only getting them 5 hours every 2 weeks. So there's a lot going on with me, right? As weird as it is, like whenever the shit I would do on meth was like docile compared to other things. Like after I would do the drug, the euphoria, the last thing I want to do is go commit real crimes, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm fishing. I'm just running around, staying busy. I'm out in the woods, scaring the shit out of myself at night, having moments with myself and the freaking tree people or the demons, whatever you want to call them. Everybody sees them if you're up long enough. Real, like, people call it the devil, people call it whatever. You're having those moments. You're coming across weird groups of people. I remember there was a guy who ended up saving his life later on, but it was probably one of the best compliments I ever got. This guy he was a meth addict like me, and I ran into him and we're talking, and man, he's like, "Oh, I really don't want to like you, man." And I'm like, "Why don't you want to like me, man?" He's like, "Because we're mortal enemies." I said, "I didn't know that." He said, "You wouldn't. You're a bringer of light. I'm a bringer of darkness." I'm like, it's like the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, man. I appreciate it. But and we laugh, but we move. Like, I really go through my life trying to give light. You know what I mean? I just bring this energy out here and hope for people to do with whatever it is they will with it. The only thing I hope is that it leaves your day a little bit better than after you saw me. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And that's always that thing. But you're in these houses, you know, you trap houses, and all of us are up tweaking for days on end, but nobody grabs a broom and cleans the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
why are we hanging out in this filth? Like, this coffee table, are we just trying to see how much shit it can hold? You know what I mean? Like, are we stacking? Are we playing Jenga? Because I'll play. You know what I mean?
Just tell me what we're doing.
You look at the floor, you're like, I really regret only wearing flops. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, but this is what I'm living with. And it's like, you look around and you realize, like, I love my people, but I realized I didn't like anybody I was hanging out with, right? Like, I'm sitting around, and it's not anything on them, it's a reflection on self. I didn't like me.
Absolutely.
But I'm still sitting there hanging out for oh, sir, could I please have a crumb of meth, please? You know what I mean? Like, and it's a sad existence. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? I remember a time where I'm homeless. Well, I never really considered myself homeless because I was living in my car.
Facts. I always called it my mobile home.
Yeah, I called it, my portable trailer. I mean, not my portable cottage. You know, if I go to park at a lake, it's a lake house. If I go to park,
Remember what I told you. See, I wish my co-host, he's working, going through rehab with his wife and everything. I hope. But I've told you what we used to call ourselves, the Burger King Bandits.
BKB, son. If there's another affiliation with that, dude, I don't want. Please, no one shoot us.
But Lee, so you went through the addiction and everything, ended up getting addicted to the meth and everything.
Yeah.
And basically lost everything. And so what was that point coming to, like, this side now of really recovery in life? What was that point where, because I know for me it was, I was like 3 days clean already, and I was sitting there and was like, what the hell am I doing? So what was that point where you stopped and you're like, what am I doing?
All right, so that's one of the things with me is if we went into more detail, we'd learn that I never seem to be able to stop myself. I need police intervention. I need to be on an episode of Cops. So what happened to me is I'd gotten to become an IV drug user, right? I started using needles. I started shooting up. And that's where I needed to get to, right? I needed to the point where there was nobody else worse than me that I can be like, hey, at least I'm not that guy. At least I'm not that. No, I am him, you know?
Sure.
And I had to admit that, like, I'm as far gone as you can get, you know? But I'm in, what town was it? Bath, right? So I'm in Bath. So I'm coming from Dansville, and I stop in Bath at Taco Bell. I wanted to go to sleep. I already had a run-in with the law earlier in the day. That was a weird experience. My last day of use was just a problem. I was fishing. I never even made it to the water. I got stuck in the woods, stuck in a tree. Cop came up, helped me break into my own car, and then just let me go willy-nilly. I'm like, okay, this is a wild ride. Maybe I should just go take a nap. But instead, I get back to my buddy's house. He gives me $500 or $550 or whatever to go cop again, and off towards Elmira I went. I'm still fat even on drugs. So I stop at Taco Bell. I eat about $20 worth of Taco Bell, and I go start cruising. And I took a wrong turn, and that's the last thing I remember for a little while because I was falling asleep. I mean, I remember I had an extra drink of this whatever flavor soda they tried that summer. Whatever I know is it tasted like ass because I used it to try to wake myself up. I just chucked the cup in my face, just trying to wake up, out again. But I'm asleep behind the wheel for a while. Enough where some lady, her name's I guess I won't say her full name. I only know her name because she wrote it on a statement. But Candy is her name. And her daughter was driving her PT Cruiser that day. So apparently, in her words, she saw me 2 cars back, almost rear-ending the car in front of her, or behind her. So she pulled over, being the good Samaritan that she is, which, hey, I salute it, dude. Neighborhood watch. If you're going to go that hard for free, I support you, right? Like, I'm not going to follow anybody for as long as she followed me, though. I mean, she followed me till I was awake and alert. So I just remember turning off onto a dirt road, and it's like one of those movies where it's going through long blinks, right? But I'm driving, and then I end up on a dirt road, and I'm an eternal optimist. There's like a utility vehicle, another car, me, and then the PT Cruiser. So now I'm like, dude, I can't figure out. I have no idea how long I was asleep for. So I'm like, do I have a crew now? Like, we're all stopping together, and then they start parallel parking. So I go to parallel park too. Like, because I don't want to panic and raise any alarms. Like, I'm just gonna keep going with this until I see where it goes. And the guy gets out and starts putting a yellow reflector vest on. And I said, oh, I don't know this guy. So I just pulled off. And then in her statement, she says, I start traveling at high rates of speed. So she turned around to head home. And somehow, I don't know what in the meth happened. Somehow we looped around and I cut her back off at a construction zone. So she turned back around and followed me. I get arrested on August 7th, 2019. I sit there and I'm sitting there and the state troopers, they're interviewing me and shit. They tell me what the date was. And they asked me what it was first. And I'm like, yeah, it's like July 15th or something, dude. And he's like, no, dude, it's August 7th. I said, oh, shit. My T-baby was born August 8th, 2016. The next day is going to be my son's birthday. It's not like I would have got to spend it with him anyway because I was being a piece of crap anyhow. But it's just one of those moments where in our brains, some things just can register. Over the next course of that, I mean, my stay in county jail was awful. I've never had a real terrible stay, but that one was because I weed eated a hill with poison sumac. In shorts, flops, and no shirt the day before I went to jail because like the meth told me I could do it. I don't like using that as an excuse, but that was the only reason I felt confident in doing that. But so my skin was like bubbling up and like falling off me while I was in county jail the whole time to the point where they had to give me my own separate uniform. I was in camouflage sweatpants and white tees in Steuben County Jail. It was a mess. After that, I decided I ended up having to go do 60 more days in Schuyler County Jail. And it was just accumulation of being in the same jail cells when I was 16, 17 years old. No personal growth. It kind of made it
like
all.
I'm still in the same place.
Yeah, I'm still in the same place. And now I got babies. Like, I guess it was kind of funny when granted, never at any point in time in my story was I the only person I was hurting. Yeah. But I was able to tell myself that. Yeah. Now I couldn't, right? So now I'm in jail for 4 months. And one of the things that was a big sign to me was my mom finally told me I couldn't go home. Right? She's never said that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need that. And my choice, but she told me I could come home if I agree to go into long-term rehab because there was some issue at the jail. The people, since I wasn't a client with them, they couldn't seem to set me up with inpatient, whatever. So I end up taking care of it myself. But I'm sitting in jail and I'm like, go to moms and go to rehab, or go be homeless in Elmira. And I'm over here like, why are they neck and neck, Tom? Why are they neck and neck? What is wrong with you? Where do you need to go?
Because that's how. But it's crazy because that's how much the drug has a control on us.
It's like like my brain's telling me I'm not gonna do meth, while my brain is strategically trying to set it up for me to go do meth. You know what I mean? Like, so once I realized that, I was like, I'm under attack under something that I don't really fully understand at all, or even have a minor grasp on. So then I went into I went to treatment. I went to 90 days in St. Joe's out in Saranac Lake, which was a wonderful rehab program out there. But still, I needed more. So then I went to Flacra's 90-day program out in so I went to Maxwell, then I went to Adi. And then I came
my neck of the woods.
Yeah. So then I left from Adi and I went to Clifton Springs Supportive Living, which was wonderful. It was what it was, right? COVID, peak COVID, everything. What is going on? I'm getting a little sweaty, so like the fact that I'm balding is pointing out even more, and my forehead's getting shinier.
We'll edit that out.
But anyway, so but that was a terrible laugh. Just edit that part out. But no, so I'm in supportive living. There's not much to do in Clifton Springs. So I used to walk like 7 miles a day, dude. I used to go visit my buddy that was a snapping turtle and a beaver. And some people used to think I was talking about girls. No, I was talking about a real snapping turtle and a real beaver. They were in the creek. I'd go down and I'd see them almost every day. But it's because when you throw
in Clifton Springs, there's what? A gas station, a Tops, and a fire department.
Dude, I used to walk down over the highway. I'd turn right down Sanitarium Road, and I would walk all the way down Sanitarium Road, all the way around. Sometimes I'd go way up even further, but usually I'd stop at the two bridges and just talk. That's the short walk. That's like 3 or 4 miles. But you had to keep your mind busy. I started listening to Pat McAfee and Flagrant 2, because you just had to find something to occupy your time, because we weren't allowed to do anything. I got to start having visits with my kids. One of the things that happened in rehab that was super substantial was over that 10 months where I was gone, she had already moved on, and she had this guy, dude, and I don't have one bad thing to say about him. I wish I did. Like, dude, this guy is freaking awesome. Like, he's such a good dude, and he's like who you would want. Like, don't get me wrong, I want me to raise my kids. But if it ain't me, this guy is pretty damn good, dude.
He's like, stop being so nice.
But also keep being awesome to my boys, dude. You're doing so great. It's like, it's so frustrating. But he's such a good dude,
Just yell at me.
So
please.
Over the course of getting through the supportive living, after about 6 months in supportive living, I had set my plan at about a year, right? Because I didn't have a license or anything like that. But 6 months into it, my plan got changed because the universe sent a message. The universe got me my license. I lifted my revocation, and they lifted my suspension and let me go get my license after paying the fee, obviously. But so I went and got my license, and I just got moving on with my life. I rented a room from this little old lady out in Honeoye, who I'm forever grateful for. Shout out Kathy. We went out there, and I met her, and I said, I told her my spiel, and because I have to be honest with everyone. Everyone needs to know I'm a meth head. But like, I want you to know what you're getting into.
Absolutely.
Right, and understand. I feel like you should know at least who's living with you. And she looks at me and she says, well, we've had doctors, we've had lawyers, we've never had someone addicted to meth. And she said, yes. So now, other than geographically having no idea where Honeoye was, and I was trying to relocate my life, so I started working at Ontario County Drug Court as a peer through Catholic Charities for a little bit, part-time. And then I got the job working at Flagler. I worked inpatient residential at Maxwell and Adi Hall, going back and forth. And at that time, I'm renting an apartment for my buddy, and it was a sweet deal. Whole back half of a house, $250 a month. You can't beat it. It might have been $300, but either way, what, dude? Thank you so much, because you got to have things go your way when you're doing this in this track. You know what I mean? But then but about a year. So I was in rehab for about 6 months, supported living for another 6 months. So my first year was all really structured. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
second year was me on my own, and I fell into this, redundant days, right? Where I would
I
go
feel
to
that.
work 2 to 10, go home, play some video games, listen to my show, go to sleep till 10 or 11 in the morning, wake up, shower, get around, head to work, do the same thing again and again
That's
and again and
that's where I
again.
am right now.
Yeah. So it's a dangerous place to be in because you become complacent,
Absolutely,
right? Like, and you start to lose track of goals, lose sight of what is
absolutely.
possible. I was living for just every other weekend when I still had visitation because it was really big for me that we didn't have to go back to, I didn't want to go back to court. I wanted my ex to just say, hey, I, I think you're ready to be with the kids, like,
Yeah,
and it took a while. And I mean, also probably getting my wife helped the most, but but when things are going like that, sometimes we need divine intervention. And mine came in
absolutely.
the course of like one of the worst moments, And as I share this story, anybody who listens is know it's real. Wear a helmet on those electric bikes. I'm not wear one if you're driving one, right? My dad, like we've shared before, he was an active user his whole life, and it helped me come to a better understanding of him. But he was still addicted to crystal meth, and did crystal meth directly cause his death? No, but like, why else would a 59-year-old man be riding his electric bike from Caton down into Corning? And that's just it's just a giant dark hill. It's country. It's the boondocks. So he's cruising down there and he got hit by a deer. Went over his handlebars, smashed his skull. Um,
Wow,
I I got to work that day, and I got a phone call from my cousin who never calls me, and
wow.
I was take like everyone. Nobody ever gives you the real one. Everyone's trying to keep it vague because everyone thinks somebody's gonna freak out. Like she
Yeah.
just said, get to the hospital. It's your dad. It's bad. Uh, so I fly over. Got to go all the way to Sayre because that's where the hospital they took him to. So turns out this accident happened around 10 p.m. The night before. They weren't able to identify him until around noon, and
Mm,
this whole time he was brain dead on a machine.
wow.
So you get there, and nobody really explains death in detail, and I understand
Yeah.
why once you see it, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen things happen, but you always have that idea that like they probably pulled through. But I'm also the same guy that squished a baby, not a baby, a young red squirrel in my hand, and just assumed that it survived because I threw it. But so anyway, like so my dad, and it's just so people know that this isn't like a facade. Like I have a problem with making jokes at the inappropriate times. My dad is and I love my dad. Don't get me wrong. I may talk about the lack of presence in there, but he was more of a friend than a father. But as after his passing, I came to a much better understanding, and we also reconnected a couple months beforehand. I just remember being a 30-year. Was I 31 at the time probably, and I hooked my first trout with my dad, and I catch it out of the creek, and I look just like a little kid again, going back to that inner child, right, that needed healing, and I'm just cheering in the creek as my dad's like, "What the fuck, dude? Okay, you got it drowned. Good job, man." So we had those beautiful moments, and
Do you think that you having gotten addicted to crystal meth, do you think that helped you understand him a lot better?
well, yeah, I think, well, I had to fall to certain levels, more depth levels. I had to get to the point where I could recognize, like I said, I was the problem. I had to
Yeah.
become the problem. I had to be able to recognize that, right? And how do you do that? You have to stop blaming people. And how do we
Yeah.
stop blaming people? We understand why situations were that way. So I had to understand
Absolutely.
why my father ended up the way he did, right? And you look back through his life, and I can't ever look back through his eyes and know exactly what he was feeling, but I can look at it and I can see the results of what happened, and you can kind of draw it together, knowing who your parent is, right? And
Absolutely.
how emotional he was, and how deeply he hurt whenever somebody hurt him. to the point of isolating for as long as he did and stuff like that. Things that like my dad would have never shared with me. I'm able to have an understanding because that's where I became. You know what I mean? And it's just, it helps in that sense, right? Like it was, I've always loved him, but I love him far more now. And I mean, when he's dead, they're sitting there. So they do this thing, the end of life test or something like that. They like pinch the skin, they put a Q-tip to the eyeball, they do all that stuff to see if you're really gone. So they do that, but the problem is now we got to wait 12 hours to do it again. My little brother, who's still struggling and fighting his fight, whatever, even, I don't know if he's even fighting it, but he's living it. I love him to death, but he was much closer to my father, right? Like they hunted, they did everything together. You know what I mean? Me and dad just kind of did drugs and, you know, played games and stuff together, you know what I mean? And laughed and played sports and made jokes. Like it was never really anything else. But so he freaks out. So I want to get him away from the hospital. So we take him back to dad's house. We walk in the door and we go in. My fat ass, first thing I do is I always open the fridge. I don't know why, dude. I wasn't looking for food. I didn't want to eat. I opened the fridge. But my little brother looks over and sees it's just a giant thing of meth there, just a giant. And it's just, that's my DOC. I love it. That still, I mean, this was 2 years into my recovery, you know what I mean? And my first time seeing it. And I do it my way. I make my jokes. I say, I'm super recovery right then. You know, I'm still working in inpatient rehab. I've been in rehab forever, my damn self. I even make a joke about it being his inheritance. I said, here, this whole time we thought dad was going to leave us nothing. Look at that, bud. You know, that's yours. You know, I make a joke there, trying to bring some light to the situation. So then we got to get back. And then you don't realize, like, my dad's an organ donor. No idea. Never had this conversation. So then you got to go through that conversation with the doctor and not the doctor, the organ donor guy. And he comes in, he goes, oh my God, what happened? You're trying to get small. They're trying to have a little small talk to relate a little bit to make this process a little easier. And I'm like, yeah, no, he got hit. They say he got hit by a deer. And he said, oh my God. I said, that's not the worst part. He goes, oh my God, what's the worst part? I said, we think it might be premeditated. Then mind you, I have this straight face on the whole time I'm saying this. Because I can't laugh right now because my dad's dying in here, dude. What kind of asshole are you? You laughing, you know? But so here I am, like, we think it might have been premeditated because my dad was an avid hunter. That's what he loved. He killed deer all around his house. Was deer.
So they just came back.
Yeah, he had a bone pile, dude. And that's where that went. And then like I said, day one I was super strong. We finished the life test. I hang out with my buddy Tony for a little bit, trying to get my own support. And then we go to bed and we wake up, and the next day, that strength's gone, right? And I'm never gonna ask my little brother is never gonna tell me no. He might lecture me a little bit if I wanted to go do drugs again, but it's the relationship we've known, whether it be with our fathers or with my sibling. We did drugs together, you know. So if I asked for it, he would have given it to me. Yeah. And that day too, I decided. The big feelings were too bad. I was gonna hit my Staples Easy button. Boom! I'm checking out of this game. I'm hitting the Staples Easy button. First thing I gotta do is I gotta go to the pharmacy because I'll never use any. Once I became an IV addict, I decided I was never gonna use anything that's water soluble if I without it. You know what I mean? It's terrible. As I get ready to pull out of the driveway, I start backing up, and it's a really small driveway. I might have went 5 feet before I just slammed the car in the park. And I just started crying on my steering wheel, you know. And I just in that moment I stopped and I just started scrolling, and I see my dad's best friend and his wife, and they posted a picture of all their kids, and well, my first thought's very shallow was that they had a hot daughter. But I needed something to take my mind off of everything. So I just invited myself over for dinner. Yeah. They said yes. Apparently they assumed that me and all my siblings were coming. No, dude, it's just me. So I came in and you know, I met their daughter and I stayed sober, and I've stayed sober since, you know, and
Mm.
she's now my wife. We have two beautiful daughters together. She helps me be the best parents of both them and my girls. She's understanding all the situations, and that's what came to me at my weakest time. You know what I mean? Is the biggest blessing,
Wow.
and that's what it is. It's like hard to look back and talk about everything so sadly when. Don't get me wrong, we're still poor. We're an impoverished family, but my God, I've got a woman who looks at me like I'm freaking. She looks at me the same way girls used to look at like Justin Timberlake when NSYNC was flourishing, right? Like she looks at me like fucking who's that one guy? Jason Momoa, dude. You know what I mean? Like, dude, she thinks I look like Aquaman with Superman's powers. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like she thinks I'm the greatest thing in this world. And I cherish her so much. Like it makes life way easier and way better. And it makes it easier to look back and see like everything that has happened wasn't in vain, right? All the harm that
Absolutely.
I put everyone through, I've learned from and grown from. And
Absolutely.
anyone who doubts that can watch the actions that I take as I go. You know what I mean? So meeting her and starting that life up together, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, uh, we went on our first date over here in Cornington. We went to Anelio's. We went and swung on a bench, not swung on a bench, swung on a swing. And then I kissed her for the first time on this dike over near my dad's house, actually. And that's where I took her when I went to propose a little less than a year later. Um, we didn't really have plans, but dude, we had back to back babies. They're 11 and a half months apart. And, you know, she helped me achieve my biggest goal, which was to be dad again, right? Like, my boys, I love them to death and I always will and I'll cherish it. But, like, one of the best moments in my life was when I became their dad, you know? And one of the hardest points in my life was when I was sitting in rehab and asking myself, like, if my boys needed me, and, you know, you do a pros and cons list, what I bring to the table, what it is when I'm not there. And when you come to the end of those things, you don't always get an answer you want to see. And at the end of the day, up until that point, they were better off without me, right? But nowadays, I don't believe that's still the truth, right? Nowadays, I don't believe that's the truth. And do they still call me? They still don't call me dad. They still call me Tom Dad. You know what I mean? And I hope someday to be dad too, because I had to curb that goal too, right? Because that's a selfish a-hole move of me to want to be dad again, dad again. When there's a man that's picked up the pieces and done, like I said, he's a freaking amazing dude. Like, and he does everything with them, for them, teaches them so much that I don't even know how to do. I don't know how to fix shit, dude. I can barely assemble the things with directions. Um, like, so he teaches them everything and helps them grow as men, and like, and and I can't be, I have to be grateful for the man, because as we talk about our kids being better than us, like, dude, with all four of us combined, like, I'm gonna have the first batch of like successful, real successful Aldrich males.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
don't commit suicide before they're 40. That don't get hit by a deer on an electric bike. You know, like, you know, just like success stories. You know what I mean? Like, we had a generation before that had a couple success stories and stuff like that. But I want my boys to be the most successful versions of themselves. And the sad
Absolutely.
thing is so yeah, at that time I wouldn't have been able to get them there. And some decisions we make last forever. I made my decisions. I did what I did. I don't get to decide when you forgive me, right? Or if you
Absolutely.
ever forgive me, right? I just stand here and I try not to do any more wrong. I just
Absolutely.
try to, and I try to change the way I was raised. I try to parent with love. And if I make a mistake, I show them what it looks like to admit that you're wrong. It's own a
Absolutely.
mistake, not just blame somebody else, right? Like, just trying to be a better guy that I could possibly be. And I think I'm doing an all right job at it. I mean, the rewards are bountiful. Like I said, may not have money, but someday that'll come. Uh, I have things that I never thought I would have, and I'm able to be a person that I never thought I would be. Right?
Absolutely.
Just to have somebody love me the way my wife does and how grateful she is for me. And just she fills my cup every day. And it's just, I enjoy life every day. And I walk around and people are always like, Dom, why are you so happy? Why are you so happy? Why the fuck are you miserable? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on in your life? For real, let's sit down and talk about it. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't be walking around out here smiling, right? Like, there was a time where I was hiding underneath the porch from the shadow people, dude, and there's no one there. There was a time where I was homeless, just living in my car, waking up with freaking damn near dead from heat stroke because I fell asleep in the summertime for too long. And I get out and I'm down in water and I got a whole bunch of Asian tourists looking at me, right? Like I've been at the bottom, bud. I've been to where it's been terrible. But that lets me know that today's not terrible, right?
Mm.
It's beautiful. It's a blessing, you know what I mean?
One thing I keep in my mind, as I go through this recovery journey, like I'm almost at a year, and it's been the longest, toughest year. And one thing that I keep in my mind as I keep putting back, as pieces keep getting put back in place, is, and I said this yesterday on a Facebook, or no, I said it yesterday in another interview that I did, and it's something you said in peer training, and it's build a life that you don't want to be absent from.
Mm-hmm.
And like that speaks volumes, and I think that is exactly what you're talking about. Like that, when anybody in recovery, anybody really, whether you're in recovery or whether you're not in recovery, like if you build a life that you don't want to be absent from, then you will make sure to do everything you can to stay in that life.
Yeah, build a life you don't want to escape from. I shouldn't treat my life like prison. My life shouldn't be a prison sentence I'm trying to find a way to get out of, right? Like I'm not just living to die, right? I'm living to hopefully make an impact. You know what I mean? Whether I do or don't,
Absolutely.
that's up to whoever I meet and talk to. You run into a lot of people who are always trying to figure out ulterior motives, but like I mean, shit. Some people I've had clients not work with me because they insisted I'm still on drugs, bud. I'm like, nope. I just got the right type. I just hit the right level of unmedicated trauma, and boom, functioning.
Facts. So moving into closing, like I think I noticed two things, and this is amazing, is your first day clean was your son's birthday.
Yeah.
Like that's like, so you have your first day clean was your son's birthday, and then the day your dad officially passed away was the day you met your wife.
Yeah.
Like, and so it just shows that every that we have to make the most of every opportunity, and every moment is beautiful. And so I'm a firm believer of, if we don't take anything from the things that we've gone through, then, and we don't pull a lesson out of it, then what's the point of going through it?
But
And
also, like, what the hell's the point of asking the universe for something if you're going to ignore the universe when it gives you a
absolutely,
sign? The universe,
absolutely.
God, whatever you want to look at it. All prayer is smoke of meditation. We're putting it under the universe is what we're asking for. And then all of a sudden, so many people get these signs that you shouldn't do that, dude. If you fall 4 times on ice on that path, getting back up, find a different goddamn path. You know what I mean? That's the universe telling you stop going up that road.
So
you are crawling.
So with all that, with everything you've gone through and everything you've experienced, I like to end the show with, because like I said, if we haven't taken anything from the journey that we've gone through, then what's the point of having gone through it? And so ending, like coming to the end, what would you have, like what's one piece of wisdom that you've taken through this entire journey that you would leave with those who watch this?
The same patience and understanding you give to other people, give it to yourself. Understand why things happen. Go back over that timeline if you need to see how long it took you to break the trust of everybody that you're around. And be patient while you're trying to rebuild that trust, right? That's all. Just be understanding of yourself. Love yourself. Truly love yourself. And in order to love you, the good parts, you got to love the bad parts too. And sometimes that takes a level of understanding. And find yourself a Kaylee. That's my wife's
awesome.
name.
So that was awesome, Tom. Thank you again.
I appreciate you, my brother.
I'm so glad that we were able to have you on. Everybody who's watching, if you haven't already, go ahead and make sure to like, subscribe, click that bell, so every time a new interview drops or another podcast drops, you can know when it does. If you want to just drop any comments, do it below. If you want to be a part of this amazing experience, everybody say hi to the missus.
Say hi, Kaylee. Say hi. All right, my brother. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
I gotta figure out how to leave.
So everybody, that was awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Again, like I said, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like, hit that bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. But that is all that we have for today. Check out the merch below. If you want to be a part of this, let me know in the comments below. But again, that's all we have for today. We have a couple amazing interviews coming up next week. Maybe I'll drop an episode in the middle of the week. But I love you guys. Until we see each other next time, always remember to love yourselves and love each other. Peace. Preacher out.